Let me start with a confession. As a screenwriter, I'm obsessed with villains. Heroes may sell the tickets, but villains write the story. Every great screenplay you can think of, from the earliest myths to modern blockbusters, lives and dies on the strength of its antagonist. Without Darth Vader, Luke is just a whiny farm boy. Without Hannibal Lecter, Clarice Starling is just an FBI trainee with a southern accent. Without the shark in Jaws, there's no fear, no urgency, no reason for the story to even exist. Nowhere is this truth more obvious than in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. That film is a colossus, a cultural milestone, but strip it down, and the reason it endures isn't gadgets or the Batmobile or even Batman himself. The reason it endures is because one character, the Joker. And not just any Joker. This Joker, the one Heath Ledger dragged out of some dark corner of chaos and gave to the world, is like a gift we weren't ready to unwrap. So why spend time on this so many years later? Because Ledger's Joker is the rarest thing in screenwriting. A villain so perfectly constructed that he transcends his own movie. He isn't just Batman's nemesis, he's a cinematic archetype. He's the ultimate antagonist. He's the chaos that keeps the story alive long after the credits roll. And I want to show you exactly why, piece by piece, until you can see the craft the way a writer sees it. Now let's start with the most fundamental principle of storytelling. Conflict drives narrative. If you have no conflict, you have no story. And when you create an antagonist, your job is to build the purest, most relentless source of conflict for your protagonist. The Joker embodies that better than almost any villain ever written. He isn't motivated by money, by revenge, or even by power in the conventional sense. If you rob a bank, eventually you want to spend the money. If you take revenge, eventually you want to rest in satisfaction. But if you want chaos, if you want to dismantle the very fabric of order, that has no endpoint. That desire never exhausts itself. And for a storyteller, that's gold. That means the Joker is a bottomless well of conflict. Batman can punch him, arrest him, lock him in an interrogation room, and still the story doesn't end. Because the Joker's real fight isn't in his body, it's in his philosophy. He doesn't just fight Batman, he fights the idea of Batman. That's what makes him pure conflict. And that's why the movie can stretch over 2.5 hours without ever losing steam. Every time you think the Joker is cornered, he reveals another layer. He is chaos embodied, and chaos can't be contained. One of the best screenwriting choices Nolan and Ledger made was to resist the temptation of an origin story. You'll notice we never really learn where the Joker comes from. We never see him as a boy. We never watch him fall into a vat of chemicals. Instead, he simply is. That decision is crucial. In storytelling, origins explain and explanation reduces fear. The moment you know why a monster exists, the monster becomes manageable. Jason Voorhees drowned. Freddy Krueger was burned. Okay, you can catalog them, classify them, understand them. But the Joker, he tells 3 different stories about his scars, each one more grotesque than the last, and then he grins. Which one is true? Maybe none, maybe all. The point is, you don't know, and you never will. He is a mystery incarnate, and mystery in storytelling terms is a powerful form of suspense. Alfred Hitchcock had a term for this, the MacGuffin of character. When an audience can't pin down the why of a character, they lean in. They hunger for answers. The Joker dangles that hunger like a carrot we'll never catch. And as a writer, that's brilliant, because it keeps the audience locked in a state of curiosity. You can't look away. Every time he speaks, you wonder, is this a clue? Is this a revelation? Or is this another trick? That's narrative power. Now, let's talk about Ledger's performance, because it's impossible to separate it from the writing. This is one of those rare alchemies where the script and the actor become inseparable. Ledger's choices weren't ornamental. They were narrative. Think about the way he licks his lips, the compulsive, almost reptilian tick. It's unsettling because it feels involuntary. That tells us something deeper than dialogue ever could. This is not a man in control of himself. He's raw nerve and impulse. He's chaos bleeding through his own body. And while we're on the subject of his lip licking, the only reason why he did that is because he had to keep the prosthetics nice and moist and the adhesive strong on his face, and so he had to constantly lick his lips for the scars to stay on, and it became a tick that he used for his character. Absolute brilliance and a tip of the cap to Heath Ledger. Or take the voice, that slurred nasal snarl. It's not theatrical like Nicholson. It's not cartoonish like Hamill. It's weirdly casual, half mocking, half menacing. It puts you off balance because it sounds like a man who doesn't care if you take him seriously. And that, paradoxically, makes him more terrifying. Even the makeup is storytelling. It's not clean, it's not symmetrical, it smears, it cracks, it looks like it was slapped on in a rush. And at times it often was, by Heath Ledger himself, which is why you can see it on his fingertips. Smeared all over his face like war paint. And that's exactly what it is, a mask of war. Batman's cowl is sleek, engineered, deliberate. Joker's face is chaos itself, drawn in grease and sweat. That contrast is narrative gold. Every villain, at least every great villain, has a philosophy. That philosophy doesn't have to be right. In fact, it shouldn't be. But it does have to be seductive. It has to make us lean forward and think, well, maybe. The Joker's philosophy is elegant in its simplicity. Order is a lie. Strip away rules, laws, and morals, and people will reveal their true, selfish, violent selves. Society is a house of cards, and all it takes is a little push. And the film tests that philosophy over and over. The bank heist shows how greed eats itself alive. The mob shows how criminals think they can control Gotham until Joker burns their money and proves how flimsy their values are. The fairy experiment shows us regular citizens trembling, holding detonators, forced to choose between murder and survival. The brilliance is, the Joker doesn't just say his philosophy, he stages it. He writes little plays, orchestrates experiments, sets traps not just for Batman, but for the audience. Each time he asks, will you prove me wrong? Or will you prove me right? And that is how you write a villain. You don't make them talk about their beliefs, you make them enact those beliefs in the story until the audience themselves has to wrestle with them. One of the golden rules of screenwriting is that your antagonist should be a mirror of your protagonist. They should reflect the same traits, twisted in an opposite direction. Batman and Joker are the textbook example of this. Batman is order, discipline, control. He believes in rules, even if he bends them. He believes in justice, even if it costs him personally. The Joker is chaos, impulse, freedom. He believes rules are shackles, justice is a joke, and morality is hypocrisy. They are both men in costume. They are both symbols larger than themselves. But one is order, the other is chaos. One wants to preserve the system, the other wants to dismantle it. That's not just conflict, that's poetry. That's myth. And it's why every scene between them crackles with tension. The interrogation room, for example, isn't just a fist fight, it's a philosophical duel. Batman can break bones, but Joker just laughs. Because pain doesn't matter. What matters is forcing Batman to play the game, to choose between Rachel and Harvey, to watch order collapse under pressure. That's the mark of a perfect antagonist. They don't just fight the hero's body, they fight the hero's soul. Look at the structure of The Dark Knight. You'll notice something unusual. The Joker doesn't follow a traditional villain arc. Most villains rise, fall, and get defeated. But the Joker, he doesn't fall. He doesn't die. He just keeps escalating. Every time you think the movie has reached its climax, the Joker reveals another level. He's caught. Oh, he wanted to be caught. His cell is a trap. He escapes. He corrupts Harvey Dent. He creates a new villain out of Gotham's White Knight. That structure mirrors his philosophy. Chaos has no endpoint. You can't resolve him because he doesn't want resolution. He doesn't seek an end. He seeks escalation. And that's what makes the movie feel so relentless. From a screenwriter's perspective, that's genius because it means the story doesn't sag in the middle. It just keeps tightening like a vice. Joker is the vice, and Gotham and Batman are what's trapped inside. This is only the beginning. In this first stretch, we've looked at the Joker as pure conflict, as mystery, as performance, as philosophy, as Batman's mirror, and as an engine of narrative structure. But this is just... Now we'll go even deeper. How Nolan's direction amplifies the Joker's menace, how sound design and visual choices create an atmosphere of dread, how Joker manipulates not just the characters, but the audience, and how culturally he redefined what a villain can be. One of the things you'll notice about the Joker in The Dark Knight is that he doesn't hide in shadows. Unlike Batman, who lives in darkness, the Joker often operates in plain sight, in broad daylight. That choice is critical. When you think of most villains, they're framed as lurking presences, waiting in the wings, hiding in the corners of the frame. But the Joker, Nolan flips that. He puts him right there, in your face. He robs a bank in the opening scene in the full blaze of morning. He crashes Harvey Dent's fundraiser in a penthouse lit by chandeliers. He parades through Gotham dressed as a nurse in glaring fluorescent light. By refusing to hide him, Nolan makes him inescapable. The Joker is everywhere, and daylight doesn't make him any safer. It makes him worse. It tells us this villain doesn't need shadows. He is the shadow. He turns safe spaces unsafe. As a screenwriter, this is brilliant inversion, because traditionally, you build suspense by concealing the monster. But here, the suspense comes from exposure. The Joker isn't under your bed. He's standing in your living room, smiling. Then, there's sound design. Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard gave Batman his heroic swells, Harvey Dent his noble motifs, but the Joker, he doesn't get a theme in the traditional sense. He gets a sound, a two-note, rising razor wire of a tone that never resolves. It's like tinnitus, like a drill into your skull, and it plays under his scenes, sometimes so faintly you only feel it subconsciously. Just the very thought of Razor touching cello string and gliding and scraping up is unsettling itself, despite the fact that it's not even shown in the movie. That's not music. That's dread. That's the audio equivalent of chaos. No resolution, no comfort, no rhythm to settle into. As a writer, I find that fascinating, because it teaches you how every tool of cinema, even outside the script, should serve character. The Joker doesn't speak chaos. The movie sounds chaotic when he's near. And let's not forget Ledger's laugh. Notice how many variations there are. Sometimes it's wheezy, sometimes it's hysterical, sometimes it's a single sharp bark. It's unpredictable, like a weapon he deploys in different shapes. That unpredictability is the point. You never know if the laugh is amusement, rage, or warning. Here's a fun observation. The Joker isn't just a character in the movie. He's a director inside the movie. Look at his schemes. They're essentially short films. The bank heist is a perfect opening short, setup, twist, reveal. The videotapes he sends to Gotham News are literal directorial works staged to unsettle. His experiments, the fairies, the kidnappings, are set pieces that he scripts, casts, and choreographs. In many ways, the Joker is the rival storyteller to Nolan himself. Nolan directs The Dark Knight. Joker directs Gotham's nightmares within it. As a screenwriter, this makes him a meta-antagonist. He isn't just fighting Batman in the story, he's also fighting Nolan for control of the narrative. Whose vision will prevail? The order of the filmmaker or the chaos of the clown? That's a level of depth you rarely see in blockbuster villains. One thing I love most about this Joker is how he manipulates us, the audience. Watch closely. Almost every time he appears, Nolan sets up our expectations, then Joker subverts them. Take the pencil trick. He sits down with the mobsters, puts a pencil on the table and says, "I'm gonna make this pencil disappear." You expect a joke. You expect sleight of hand. Instead, he slams a man's head into it, kills him instantly. The pencil disappears, yes, but in a way you didn't want. Or maybe you did, and that's a conversation for a different video. Nolan and Ledger conspire with the Joker to make us the butt of the joke. That's what makes Joker transcend the screen. He doesn't just manipulate Gotham, he manipulates us. He turns the audience into his final victims. Let's talk dialogue, because as a screenwriter, I could spend an entire workshop just analyzing his lines. What's remarkable about Joker's dialogue is that it's never wasted. Every line either reveals his philosophy, undermines someone else's, or unsettles the audience. And yet, it never feels like exposition. It feels like chaos spilling out of him. Take this gem. Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. Oh, and you know the thing about chaos? It's fair. In 4 sentences, you get his entire worldview. And the kicker? He makes it sound reasonable. He's not shouting, he's not explaining like a professor lecturing a class. That calmness makes the horror worse. Another favorite. This city deserves a better class of criminal. And I'm gonna give it to him. That's a mission statement, but phrased as a customer service. It's funny, but it's terrifying because it reframes crime as performance art. And then there's the classic. Why so serious? A throwaway line, almost. But it became iconic because it captures his essence. A man who takes nothing seriously except the destruction of seriousness itself. As writers, we can learn here. The best villain dialogue doesn't rant. It doesn't monologue endlessly. It cuts. It provokes. It leaves space for the audience to squirm. The Joker doesn't just cause chaos, he escalates it. That's his true superpower. Think structurally. In Act 1, he robs a bank. Big, but local. In Act 2, he crashes parties, kills public figures, declares war on Gotham. By Act 3, he's holding the entire city hostage with fairy bombs and corrupting Gotham's White Knight, Harvey Dent. That's textbook escalation. Each act raises the stakes, not just in scale, but in intimacy. By the end, Batman isn't just saving the city, he's saving its soul. And here's the kicker. Escalation isn't just external, it's internal. The Joker escalates within Batman. He pushes him closer and closer to breaking his one rule: no killing. That inner conflict is the most important escalation of all, because if Batman kills Joker, Joker wins. If Batman refuses, Joker still wins by corrupting Dent. It's a no-win scenario, the classic writer's trap. And that's how you know the villain is perfectly written. He forces the hero into impossible choices. Now let's go a little big picture. Villains that endure, and I mean truly endure, aren't just characters. They're myths. They embody something larger than themselves. The Joker is the trickster archetype. In mythology, the trickster disrupts order, mocks the powerful, and exposes hidden truths. Loki, Hermes, Coyote, they all destabilize. They all reveal hypocrisy, and they all force society to face uncomfortable truths. Ledger's Joker is exactly that. He isn't just a man in makeup, he's the personification of chaos. He's the storm Batman can never stop, only endure. And because he's mythic, he doesn't need an ending. Notice at the film's conclusion, he isn't killed. He's left hanging, literally laughing, promising that their battle is eternal. That's myth. That's storytelling that stretches beyond one movie. Now let's step outside the movie for a moment. What did this Joker do to cinema? He raised the bar. After The Dark Knight, audiences no longer accepted cartoonish villains. They wanted ideology. They wanted complexity. They wanted antagonists who challenged the hero at the deepest level. Look at Thanos, Killmonger, even Walter White as he slips into villainy. They all owe something to Ledger's Joker. He changed the template. Culturally, he became omnipresent. College dorm walls, Halloween costumes, internet memes. He wasn't just a character. He was a cultural language. Why so serious became a shorthand for rejecting order. That's impact. That's what separates a great villain from the greatest villain. So far, we've seen how the Joker operates as a cinematic presence, as sound, as manipulator, as myth, and as cultural earthquakes. But we're only halfway there. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the psychology of the Joker, not as a clinical case, but as a narrative force. We'll explore how he bends structure itself, how he makes the audience complicit, and why his lack of resolution is the most daring choice a blockbuster has ever made. We've already talked about the Joker as a conflict, as philosophy, as cinematic presence, and as a cultural earthquake, but now we have to drill into something that might be the most important element of all, the psychology of the Joker. Not in the clinical sense, but in how he functions psychologically as a narrative device. This is where the brilliance of the writing really shines, because the Joker doesn't just test Batman, he tests us. He tests the very structure of story itself. One of the greatest tools you can give a villain is unpredictability. The moment an audience can anticipate exactly what a villain will do, you've lost tension. The Joker solves this problem by making unpredictability his brand. Think about it. Most villains have a logic. Voldemort wants immortality, so you can predict he'll pursue Horcruxes. The Terminator wants to kill Sarah Connor, so you know he'll chase her. You may not know how, but you know what. The Joker? You never know what. He tells the mob he'll kill Batman for half their money, then he burns it. He threatens to blow up hospitals, but only after sowing chaos with smaller assassinations. He sets up the fairy dilemma not for money or control, but just to see what happens. And here's the genius. Unpredictability becomes its own form of predictability. You know the Joker will always subvert expectations. That anticipation keeps the audience in a constant state of unease. As a writer, that's a gift, because it means you can escalate tension without resorting to bigger explosions or loud chases. You escalate through surprise. Let's take a closer look at one scene, the interrogation. If you want to understand why this Joker works, this is the Rosetta Stone. Batman slaps him into the table, he punches, he shouts, he rages. But Joker laughs, he taunts, he controls the room. Why? Because Batman's weapons, fear, intimidation, violence, don't work on him. You can't scare someone who wants chaos. You can't intimidate someone who finds pain funny. You can't bargain with someone who doesn't care about money or survival. From a screenwriter standpoint, that is a brilliant inversion. The hero's strengths become useless. That forces the hero and us into unfamiliar territory. And the dialogue here is razor sharp. Joker tells Batman, "You have nothing to threaten me with, nothing to do with all your strength." That's not just a line. That's a dismantling of the entire Batman persona. The mask, the muscles, the growl. Useless. The result? For the first time, Batman feels powerless, and the audience feels it with him. That's how you make a villain terrifying. You strip the hero of his power. Another key element, the Joker's obsession with forcing choices. Every major scheme he orchestrates involves a choice. Kill the other bank robber or risk being killed yourself. Reveal Batman's identity or people will die. Save Rachel or save Harvey. Blow up the other fairy or to be blown up yourself. These are what I call philosophical traps. They're not just plot devices, they're expressions of his worldview. That under pressure, rules crumble. That given a choice between ideals and survival, people will always choose survival. This externalizes inner conflict. Instead of characters talking about morality, they live it in the most extreme circumstances. The Joker doesn't debate you, he traps you in a situation where your actions reveal your philosophy. And here's the darker genius. The Joker wins even when he loses. The fairies don't blow each other up? Fine. Batman still has to break his rule to stop Dent. Dent still falls. Gotham still loses faith. The Joker's experiment still proves something ugly. That chaos leaves permanent scars, even if the city resists in the moment. Think of the Joker as a virus inside the story. He infects every character he touches. Batman becomes more brutal, more desperate, closer to crossing his line. Harvey Dent, Gotham's hope, becomes Two-Face. The mob, thinking they're hiring a mercenary, end up consumed by his games. Even ordinary citizens, the fairies, the hostages and clown masks, are forced into moral collapse. From a narrative perspective, this is the perfect villain design. A great antagonist doesn't just clash with the hero, they ripple outward, infecting the entire cast, reshaping the story world itself. By the end of The Dark Knight, Gotham is fundamentally changed. Dent is dead, Batman a fugitive, and the Joker is still laughing. Even in defeat, he leaves scars. Now here's a layer most people miss. The Joker isn't just the antagonist of Gotham. He's the antagonist of the audience. Now the difference is, the trick... Now here's the difference. The pencil trick makes us laugh when we know we shouldn't. The hospital scene makes us nervous chuckle at mass destruction. The fairy dilemma makes us squirm, imagining what we would do. In other words, Joker doesn't just test characters, he tests us. He pulls us into complicity. We become his unwilling subjects. And that's why his presence lingers after the credits roll. This is a writer's holy grail. When your villain makes the audience feel implicated, you've transcended fiction. You've blurred the line between story and reality. One of the boldest moves Nolan made was not killing the Joker. In most blockbusters, villains die at the end. It's neat, it's tidy, it's comforting, but not the Joker. He's left hanging, literally taunting Batman, promising their war is eternal. That lack of resolution is powerful. It denies the audience closure. It makes the Joker feel larger than the film, as if he's still out there somewhere, waiting. And from a mythic standpoint, that's essential. Chaos doesn't end. You can't defeat it. You can only contain it briefly before it returns. That's what makes him archetypal. He's not just a man, he's a force. Now, we can't ignore the way that Joker weaponizes Harvey Dent. This isn't just a side plot, it's the Joker's ultimate move. Dent represents Gotham's hope, the idea that law can save the city without masks. By corrupting Dent, the Joker doesn't just hurt Batman personally, he destroys the city's soul. And narratively, this is genius, because by the end, Batman isn't fighting the Joker anymore, he's fighting Dent. That's how deep Joker's infection runs. He creates another villain inside the story. That's next level antagonism. It's not just enough for the Joker to be the villain. He multiplies himself. He ensures that even if he's caught, his chaos continues. Here's why, as a screenwriter, I find this Joker intoxicating. He's the ultimate playground. Every scene he's in is an opportunity for surprise. Every plan he hatches is a chance to test philosophy. Every interaction he pushes the hero into a corner. He's a narrative gift that keeps giving. You can drop him into any situation and he'll create drama. Bank robbery, he flips it. Interrogation, he flips it. Hospital visit, he flips it. That's the mark of a truly great villain. They don't need the story to bend around them. They bend the story around themselves. So where does this leave us? We've now explored Joker as a psychological force, a manipulator of choice, as narrative virus, as audience antagonist, and as unresolved myth. But we're not finished. In the final part, we'll go bigger than Gotham. We'll look at the Joker as a cultural archetype, at why the audiences around the world connected so deeply, and at what writers can learn if they want to craft villains who don't just fill the screen time, but define generations. We've examined the Joker as a conflict, philosophy, cinematic presence, psychological virus, and manipulator of choice. But to finish this video, we need to zoom out. We need to step beyond Gotham, beyond even cinema, and ask, why did this villain, more than almost any other in film history, resonate so deeply with audiences across the globe? Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about one movie. It's about myth. It's about archetype. It's about the rare lightning strike when story, performance, and culture align to create not just a character, but a symbol. Think of archetypes as timeless masks that reappear across history. The hero, the mentor, the trickster, the tyrant, the lover. These archetypes aren't bound to one story. They're woven into human imagination. Ledger's Joker slides perfectly into the trickster role, but he modernizes it. The trickster has always mocked authority, disrupted order, and revealed uncomfortable truths. What makes this Joker unique is that he does it in a world that looks like ours. Gotham is not a fantasy city. It's a thinly veiled Chicago. The mobsters talk like real mobsters. The politicians feel like real politicians. The stakes are grounded in modern fears: terrorism, corruption, collapse of institutions. So when the Joker sneers, "Introduce a little anarchy," he's not just talking about Gotham. He's talking about us. He's the trickster for the 21st century, not a myth in the clouds, but a nightmare on the evening news. Why did audiences in 2008 respond so viscerally to this Joker? Context matters. The world was reeling from terrorism, from wars, from financial collapse. Trust in institutions was crumbling. The Joker embodies that uncertainty. He doesn't want money. He doesn't want power. He wants to prove that the systems we cling to, law, order, morality, are paper thin. He's the living metaphor for the fear that society can unravel overnight. And audiences recognize that. Maybe not consciously, but viscerally. This wasn't a villain from another planet. This was chaos in a clown mask, whispering the anxieties of the real world back to us. That's why he's stuck. That's why he transcended fandom and became cultural shorthand. He wasn't fantasy. He was allegory. Another key factor: iconography. The Joker's look in The Dark Knight is unforgettable. The smeared makeup, the greasy hair, the Glasgow smile. It feels simultaneously theatrical and realistic. And that visual design matters, because great villains aren't just heard, they're seen. Vader's mask, Hannibal's muzzle, Freddy's glove. These images burn themselves into memory. Ledger's Joker did the same. And it's no accident that "Why so serious?" posters flooded cities, or that people dressed as him not just on Halloween, but in protests, in art, in graffiti. The image became a canvas for rebellion. Let's step back into the writer's chair. What do we as storytellers learn from all of this? How do you build a villain who doesn't just push your hero, but becomes immortal? Here are some distilled lessons from the Joker. Number 1, give them philosophy, not just motivation. Don't stop at "he wants power" or "she wants revenge." Ask, what does this villain believe? And how do they test that belief in the story? Number 2, make them the hero of their own story. The Joker just doesn't see himself as evil. He sees himself as honest, as someone exposing the lies of society. That conviction makes him stronger. Number 3, let them escalate. Each act should show your villain upping the stakes, forcing the hero into deeper conflict. Joker doesn't stagnate. He multiplies. Number 4, make them unpredictable. Surprise is the lifeblood of tension. If your audience can guess every move, the fear dies. Joker never lets us breathe easy. Number 5, infect the world around them. A great villain doesn't just fight the protagonist, they ripple outward, corrupting side characters and reshaping the world. Number 6, deny resolution. The boldest move is sometimes to let the villain endure. Killing them may feel neat, but letting them live keeps the myth alive. And number 7, think beyond the screen. The best villains resonate because they touch something in the real world. They become allegories for fears we already carry. These are not just storytelling tricks. They're ways to tap into something primal, something enduring. And that brings us to the ending. Because what truly makes the Joker immortal in The Dark Knight is that we leave him not with silence, but with laughter. That laugh, echoing as he dangles upside down, is the ultimate punctuation mark. Batman may have won the moment, but the Joker laughs because the larger war is already his. Dent is corrupted. Gotham's soul is cracked. Chaos has proven its point. From a screenwriting perspective, that ending is perfect. It denies closure, it denies catharsis, it leaves the audience unsettled, haunted, carrying the Joker out of the theater and into their own nightmares. So, let's return to the central thesis. Why is Ledger's Joker the best villain of all time? Because he is conflict incarnate. Because he embodies philosophy instead of plot. Because he manipulates not just characters, but audiences. Because he escalates without end. Because he infects the narrative world like a virus. Because he resonates with real-world fears. Because his image, his sound, his performance burn themselves into culture. And most of all, because he doesn't end. He keeps laughing. That's what makes him timeless. That's why, nearly 2 decades later, we're still talking about him, still analyzing him, still haunted by him. He is more than a villain. He is cinema's greatest mirror, chaos painted on a human face, forever asking us whether our rules or order, our morality, are as solid as we think. And the uncomfortable truth? Maybe he's right. Maybe all it takes is a push. As a screenwriter, I've spent my career trying to show people why this one villain towers above the rest. But the truth is, Ledger's Joker can't be replicated. He isn't a formula, he's a phenomenon. What we can do is learn from him. We can remember that villains are not obstacles, they are engines. They are philosophies in motion. They are the storm that defines the story. And if you want to write a villain who endures, don't ask, how do I make them evil? Ask instead, how do I make them inevitable? That's the Joker. Inevitable, immortal, and in my opinion, the greatest villain cinema has ever given to us. From one artist to another, stay creative, and I'll see you again.